Well, first of all, what does it feel like to watch the elections and the campaigns of this nation on the sidelines after 20 years in the struggle, and this time you're watching these? What's the experience like?
Well, it's certainly, fairly different from being in the hectic thick of it.
Oh, yes.
But I can tell you that it doesn't make the frustration of what one feels any less. If anything, maybe it's more. Looking at the kind of repression, the kind of injustice that overall surrounds not just the candidates, but law-abiding taxpayers of this country who are daily, clobbered and treated like they are totally useless things, not even human beings. So it's very frustrating, sitting here and knowing that the struggle that I have invested my life in, almost my entire life, even after so long, from 1980, it's 40 years, that it actually looks worse than it was 40 years ago. It's very frustrating.
When you look at these entire elections, the year of 2021, what is unique and what is the same as per the dynamics?
Well, a lot of it is frankly the same. It's more of the same. This particular campaign is obviously in a rather different global environment of the pandemic. But that in itself should have invited us to interrogate whether to have it. We didn't, or we did, and we chose to take the dangerous path that we have taken. The other thing, of course, is that, which is not entirely new, but I think a little more constrictive, is the period within which the campaign itself has to be done. Because, and very strange, I think we have had each season of new electoral commissioners, we have just had worse and worse electoral managers. Because in this particular electoral season, the people who have the smallest place in which to campaign have the longest time. And those with the widest place to campaign have the shortest time. A councillor for a parish will campaign for 6 months.
Before even the time comes.
Before they vote. A councillor for a parish, which you can walk through every day. They have 6 months to campaign. They are the first to be nominated, and they will be the last to be elected.
Oh, yeah.
The person who has to campaign in 146 districts, 146 districts, has 60 days in which to do that. Now this is, and we are talking about 350, I think 351 constituencies. Now, a decent campaign to reach people, and especially in a country like ours, whose media penetration is really insignificant, even after all the hype about the number of FM radio stations and TVs and so on. If you go to the villages, that's why they wanted to buy radios when it dawned on them that one could have education remotely. They realized there were no radios in the homes. They have been thinking about buying radios for homes, and that's the truth. There are no radios in the homes. And even if you put them there, they would have no batteries to put in the radios. The amount of poverty that we are dealing with in this country is humongous.
It's humongous.
And therefore, with that level of media penetration, any decent campaign would mean that you actually have to talk to people physically. Now, if you have to talk to people physically, you at least need minimum a day for a constituency. Because a constituency, you'll find, has maybe 5, 4, 7 sub-counties. Now, you can imagine if you had to talk to people in a sub-county, and the sub-county is big, you know? Even if you had a day in a sub-county, that's why these parish people are going to spend 6 months. So you have now to campaign in 3 districts, not in just one sub-county, not in several sub-counties in a constituency, not in several constituencies in a district, but you have to campaign in 3 districts
per day.
Now, in those 3 districts per day, you are being met with a lot of obstacles. As I have been seeing it, you know, every candidate will first go through these metal spikes and fight with the soldiers to reach the venue. So just the difficulties that candidates have in this election is, I think, far greater than even what we have experienced.
Doctor, when one comes on that grid, someone would say the current campaign, it's what they call a generational battle between the old and the young. From where you look, what does Uganda become after Museveni? Is that how you see it as well on your side?
You know, that is a total misrepresentation of what the struggle is. And again, this is one of my very deep frustrations that I have. That frankly, we have a population which up to now, there is a significant portion that doesn't get what the challenge of the country is. The challenge of the country and the challenge of the continent, not just Uganda, is not a generational problem. The challenge of Uganda is a power problem. That the population is powerless, whether young or old. That is the problem.
They don't have the power.
That there is no power in the country, in the population.
Where is the power, Doctor?
With the gunmen who even created these countries. These countries were not created by ourselves, they were created by guns from the British and the Europeans. Now, so our countries were created by force, foreign force. They are still kept by force. Uganda has never had a leader hand over peacefully to another leader in its entire history.
Does that mean we are going to go back to war, Doctor?
No. Let's first resolve what the problem is. Because you were introducing it as a matter of course, that there is a generational battle. The problem is not a generational one. The problem is a power control one. Who controls power? It's not generations. Power is controlled by guns, by force, not by the population. There is no popular control of power. And that is the problem, that a few people who control the means of causing pain to others control all the power, manage all our wealth. So the struggle at hand is not a struggle between old and young. It's a struggle between those who have power, the few that have power with force, and the whole population that has no power. It's a liberation struggle. It's so frustrating that up to now, 60 years after independence, our people seem not to get it, or the narrative is deliberately wrongly projected by those who understand. So that is the struggle. It's a liberation struggle. Now, a liberation struggle means the entire population is united in demanding that they regain control and influence in the country.
Okay.
Nobody has power, whether young or old or whatever, women or men, or nobody has power.
Doctor, that brings me to a conversation. Of late, there's been such a big wave from the president. I've really looked at what he alludes to every time he goes. Every time the president has gone into elections, he claims that the opposition is being supported by foreign countries. In most cases, he never mentions those foreign countries. But how true are these allegations? And on the flip side of it, how about his consistent allegations of the oppositions being violent, yet you as opposition have no tools of violence at hand? What do you make of the entire situation?
Well, you see, Mr. Museveni, as I have said, controls the country by force.
Okay.
He came to power by force. He is maintained in office by force. I defeated him in 2016. He overthrew the people's will. Detained me, took me to Karamoja, charged me with treason. He has never prosecuted me.
Up to today?
Up to today, there is another election. So clearly he abuses power to remain in office. Now, part of the ways he does that is, one, to stop anybody contesting against him, or even the population, from having freedom to express themselves, to talk about his ills and what the country needs to be. So freedom of expression, the freedoms are grossly curtailed. Secondly, to deny them logistics, money that they can use to influence, because in order to carry out any form of campaign, you need logistics.
Of course.
You need to move, you need airtime. If you go to the radios, you need to pay. So one needs logistics in politics. Now, that's another place where he tightens very closely. So internally, what they call, security operations. One of the security operations is to hunt who has money, and if anybody has money who is not under their control, that money must be removed from them. And impoverishment.
The president said that this is by Western forces, external forces that want to cause anarchy.
Yes, this is where I'm coming.
That is the strategy.
This is where I'm coming.
Okay.
So first of all, it is to make sure that internally nobody has money that can provide that kind of logistics.
Okay.
Anybody who is doing business must be his son, must be his daughter, must be his in-law, must be the people he controls and who support him. If there is anybody who does not support him, he should not have money, and they will be hunted down and make sure that they are impoverished, including the general population. That's why the means of production for the country and the economic empowerment has been grossly undermined. That's why cooperatives were destroyed in the first place, because cooperatives were empowering the population. That's why, our national assets, corporations, public corporations, were all privatized to themselves. That we had Uganda Commercial Bank, now it is Stanbic Bank, which is owned by the Museveni family. So they privatized what was national assets to deny funds for people that can organize against them. So internally, they have control over anybody who has money. That leaves external sources. So then their worry is who can bring in money from outside to help these people to organize. That's why he now attacks foreigners. He thinks if there are people organizing, and he doesn't know where they are getting money from, because he has impoverished everybody, he has control, he looks at every account. So how are these people moving? How do they buy fuel?
But Doctor, how true are these allegations? Do you as opposition
Of course it's nonsense. But even if they were true, there is no reason at all why people outside the country should not fund people in the country. First of all, we have a huge diaspora population. The money which the people, Ugandans outside Uganda, bring into Uganda is much more than Uganda earns on its own from its exports. So if Ugandans outside have money, because they have not been impoverished like the ones he controls here, whom he has impoverished, why can't Ugandans send money back to liberate their country? It's their legitimate right to do so.
That brings me to a question, Doctor. Museveni seemed to be a darling to the West in the recent past and years. What happened? What changed? Why is he scared about the external funders to whom he was a darling?
Well, I really don't know. You know, first of all, understand that the foreigners don't relate to Uganda because they like any of us.
Okay. Why do they?
It's not that they like Museveni because Museveni is a good person, that they like this one or that one. Foreigners come here for their own interests. They have national interests they serve in their capitals. Now, when their foreign interests are undermined, then they become unhappy with whoever is undermining them.
Oh, okay.
And when their interests are being served, regardless of whether ours are being served, because when they were darlings with him, he was still torturing us and killing us. It's not that Museveni's attitude to Ugandans has changed, that is what has changed the opinion of foreigners. No. Museveni has been doing the same things that he's doing. The reason that if they are against him now, they would be against him, is that because of having done what he has been doing for a long time, he's now endangering the country itself, the economy.
Okay.
The economy has collapsed, actually. And insecurity is bound to happen. Everybody can see that, that you cannot sustain this level, because the more he becomes unpopular, the more he must use force. The more he uses force, the more he becomes even more unpopular. So they see that there is a big political risk ahead, that Museveni represents a huge political risk, and that is a risk to their interests, to their investments, to their businesses.
So they will change the approach.
So they would want a transition to what will secure their interests. That's why I think they cannot favor him. So happily now, it would appear therefore that our interest for change here happens to coincide with theirs. It's not that they are supporting our freedom.
It's their foreign policy.
It's that Museveni is now endangering their interests. That's how I would look at it.
Doctor, before COVID-19 hit the country, we're in the process of having a national dialogue. But now, with the death of over 54 Ugandans, this is according to the president, by the way, is it time for Ugandans from all walks of life to talk and discuss about the future of Uganda?
Well, it has always been ripe for Ugandans to discuss its future. As I have said, Uganda has been imperiled, has been in danger all these years. It's not a new thing. It's not COVID. Even before COVID, there was a very, very deep crisis here. You know, really, and as I have said, it's not just Uganda, it's real Africa. We have an existential threat. This country, we can become extinct. This continent, the black people of this continent can become extinct. The gap in knowledge between Africa and other continents is extremely huge. We have no knowledge on this continent. That should worry us, because the world eliminates the weak. And the biggest weakness one can have is weakness in knowledge. Now there is a pandemic. The whole continent, we are looking at others to save us. When we talk about vaccines, we are looking at others to save us. I saw and published and
Yes, I saw that yesterday on your Facebook.
Yes, a map of how people will get vaccines. We are the last. We shall be the last.
2023.
And understandably, we don't have even the money. We must beg. They will have to first protect their populations who pay the money that invented these things. Then they will look at us, who may infect them.
Others.
Who may infect them if we are not retreated. That's how they will come to now.
That's 3 years later.
Yes, yes. Now, we cannot survive in that kind of situation. So the gap in knowledge, the gap in wealth, and wealth follows knowledge, is so huge that Ugandans, it's extremely urgent. It's not about COVID. It's urgent for our survival that we look at how we rapidly change the situation. You know, you look at the situation of our children. Up to today, 33% of our children are stunted, child stunting, which is irreversible. Now, if one of every 3 children is stunted, is operating far below capacity of a human being for life, that is a huge, huge crisis. We are talking about having 40 million. In effect, we have 10 million.
Stunted.
No. Yes. We have 10 stunted million that the others have to look after. So that should worry any person, any reasonable person, and that this has been going on for all these years. You know, that Museveni has been in power 35 years, is talking about, you know, securing the future. How can you secure a future of stunted people?
Yesterday, Doctor, yesterday we had our very first story on the COVID-19 cash payouts. You saw how much money went into these. What do you have to say about these stories that bring out corruption that was embedded in COVID-19 cash?
You see, it's not just COVID-19. What I talked about, the liberation struggle, what is it that we are liberating? We have no control over our resources.
As a nation.
As a country. That's what it means. I told people a long time ago, don't waste your time that you are listening to the national budget. It's nonsense. We don't have a national budget. The money of this country is run according to what Museveni wants.
Wow.
Absolutely. The COVID money is a very glaring example. First of all, when COVID came, we did not have a single shilling in our Bank of Uganda that this is the national reserve.
Contagious.
All the money that should be our reserves had already been eaten. We are a country without a reserve. So even the first bag of food that we had to buy to save our people in lockdown, or to give to Minister of Health, we had to borrow. The country immediately borrowed 600 million euro in March.
These are unprecedented times, Doctor. We didn't see this coming.
We didn't, but that's why every country must have a contingency, because everybody knows that you can have things that happen without your prediction. You can have an earthquake, you can have storms, you can have all kinds of things. That's why we must have a reserve. We didn't have any reserve. That means we are reckless. It's like a drunkard in a home who has nothing in the bedroom. You know, you know, that's how the country is run. We are a country of managed by drunkards. So we had no reserve. We borrowed all this money. Of the money that was borrowed, when everybody is locked down, when everybody is suffering, from March up to now, the money that has been taken to State House, not the President's office, the home of Mr. Museveni, 620 billion for secret work in his home. 620 billion. money for donations in his home, State House donations, 343 billion.
Between March and now?
Yes. So just the donations of his home and separate, whatever secrets he was doing,
Classified.
he was doing in COVID in the home, in the home, between donations and secrets in his home, we have spent $1 trillion.
On the home?
Yes, on the home, 1 trillion. Yet doctors have no masks, have no gloves, have nothing. You know, the children are at home, not having education for a whole year. You know, the hospitals have nothing. You know, then that you talk about that report. So first of all, the money, even in that report, was a small part of what was borrowed.
Doctor,
Now,
what you're looking
of what was borrowed, a small part that was given to health, that was given to, you know,
disaster preparedness,
disaster people. That is what is in that report. That was a small part.
the big part.
The big part is what was siphoned away as classified.
Wow.
Now, this small part that was given to government functions, as you have seen, was also stolen, largely, by the same people. You know, that's why you see that these daughters of Kutesa, one married to General Muhoozi, the other one to another friend of theirs, that they are the ones who supply oxygen. That they were the ones who were hired. You can
That
imagine.
is an industrial
You can
scam.
imagine. By the Minister of Health. No tendering, no what? How do Ugandans? How do we share into our opportunities? Because this is our money. How do other people share into these opportunities? How is a tender like that one? You know. When I complained about it, people are saying, but these are also Ugandans. I'm not against
Any Ugandan doing
any
business.
Ugandan doing business, including those in the State House. But it must be transparent.
Level grounds.
It must be, we must have equal opportunity. I would have put in a tender and realized that their tender is better than mine. I would never complain if the opportunity was open to us. So even the little money that went to these places, you see that, you know, some were to buy loudspeaker, these mukarakasa, the loudspeakers,
Megaphones.
megaphones to talk about COVID in the villages. You know?
The radios never came through. They equally never came through.
I don't know where there is a village where there are megaphones.
I've only seen Katumba using one.
Maybe Katumba managed to Katumba way.
But I've not seen it anyway. So, Doctor, with all these, we have seen opposition, even government, even the NRM candidate, talking to crowds. From where you stand, your FDC as well and other opposition presidential candidates have been seen campaigning, drawing big crowds without masks. Does this concern you as a doctor and a politician in these times where we
Intensely, very intensely. You know, I have, right from the onset of the pandemic, I took very, very keen interest. I published weekly briefings about COVID.
You actually gave me a concoction. I'm still running by.
Yes, I have been deeply involved in the whole pandemic. We tried to save Ugandans because we knew that there is really no government, that they are locking down people, there is no ambulance system in the country to take people to hospitals. We mobilized the Ugandans to volunteer and give vehicles to a pool that we could use to create emergency services in lockdown. The regime arrested and terrorized everybody to stop that, nobody apart from government is allowed to move. We tried.
Government say those were standards, quality control measures.
Nonsense, absolute nonsense. Because, so where have those quality measures gone? Because the pandemic is still there. You know? So that was absolute trash. we trained our drivers because, again, we are not doing it as reckless people. We are people who know what we are doing. We trained the drivers on managing the movement of patients during such a crisis. Because, again, whether it's a woman going to deliver, whether it's somebody having an epileptic fit or whatever, you know, whatever emergency it is, you don't know who has COVID and who doesn't.
True.
So, in order to provide any service of any kind, including, you know, people in the village, you know, the people who, you know, the traditional birth attendants, anybody who does help other in health relations should have been immediately sensitized and protected, so that any time you are dealing with a sick person or a supposedly unwell person for any reason, you are protected. That never happened. This should have been the first response of government. But we did, when we mobilized the drivers, we had a training. We had a day's training of the drivers on how to take people safely to health facilities. We provided them with sanitizers, with the masks, and with personal protection for the drivers. But the government blocked it. We tried to mobilize, we were trying to mobilize, you know, food to give to people. Government blocked it, yet not providing anything in the alternative. The only thing that remained working and which is still open was counseling. We also provided counseling services. So now, and I then provided weekly briefs on the pandemic,
yes,
to say how it is. So I cannot fail to be very concerned about what is going on in the campaigns relating to the spread of the COVID.
Should these campaigns have been handled? What could be the best way here?
The best way was simply not to have campaigns at this time. Why? Because, as I have told you, it is absolutely ridiculous in a country whose media penetration I have already talked about, to imagine that you can have what they call scientific or digital campaigns. It's ridiculous. The FM stations that they are talking about, even now,
255.
Yeah, and you can see even now because they are owned by NRM functionaries. I told you that has been the policy to crush everybody else, make sure everybody else is poor. So whoever owns the radio is theirs. The radios are either theirs directly or their agents. So others who are challenging them have no access to these radios. But even when we pay exorbitantly for airtime on those radios, you are stopped. You have seen, you know, candidates stopped from accessing these media houses. So in that kind of a situation where the media penetration is very low, where, you know, even the finances for campaigns is very low, and so it was, and you know, you have a still highly illiterate population. We should never have had these campaigns. The law provides a path that could avoid them until we are safe.
The president chose to take the Health Act.
The reason Mr. Museveni chose to endanger the country, and by the way, you remember he himself had said that it would be madness
for anyone to organize for elections.
To organize elections.
That was the second address.
People had already